The imperial palace of Dracorath had seen 17 babysitters in 3 months. Each one had arrived with credentials longer than their arm spans, boasting degrees in xenopediatrics, interstellar child psychology, and diplomatic etiquette. Each one had fled in tears, their scales singed or their confidence shattered by the tiny tyrant known as Prince Mir. Akeem pushed her cleaning cart down the crystalline hallway, humming an old earth tune her grandmother used to sing. She'd been working the night shift at the palace for 6 months now, invisible to the nobles who swept past in their iridescent robes. That was fine by her. Invisibility meant job security, and job security meant she could send credits back home to her family on the farming colonies. A thunderous crash echoed from the royal nursery, followed by an otherworldly shriek that made the windows rattle. Akeem paused, mop in hand, and watched as Babysitter 18, a towering Xanthari with 4 arms and supposedly infinite patience, stumbled out of the ornate doors, her usually pristine fur smoking slightly. "I cannot," the Xanthari gasped, all 4 hands trembling. "I simply cannot. The child is possessed by chaos itself." Akeem watched her flee, then glanced at the nursery doors. Protocol said she should wait for the royal guard. Protocol said a human janitor had no business in the prince's chambers. But another crash sounded, followed by what might have been sobbing, and Akeem had never been good at following protocol when a kid was crying. She pushed open the door. The nursery looked like a supernova had gone off inside a toy store. Expensive educational holographs flickered and sparked on the floor. Silk cushions leaked their stuffing like wounded creatures, and in the center of it all sat Prince Mir, all of 4 years old with scales that shimmered between gold and crimson, tiny horns barely poking through his temples, and tears streaming down his reptilian face. "Go away," he shrieked, hurling a stuffed stellar beast at her head. Akeem caught it one-handed without looking up from the devastation. "Well," she said mildly, setting her cart aside, "someone's made quite the mess." Mir blinked, clearly unused to anyone staying past the first thrown object. "I said go away." "I'm a prince!" "Yep, I can see that from all the fancy stuff you've wrecked." Akeem picked up an overturned chair and set it right. "Must be exhausting being a prince, all those people telling you what to do all day." The young dragon prince's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "You're not scared of me." "Should I be scared of a kid who's sad and throwing a tantrum?" Akeem shrugged. "I've got 3 younger brothers. You're gonna have to breathe actual fire to impress me, Your Highness." "I can breathe fire," Mir insisted, though his flames came out as nothing more than sparks. "I'm the most powerful dragon prince in the Empire." "Uh-huh." Akeem started picking up toys, examining each one with genuine interest.
"What's this one?"
"That's Captain Starwing," Mir said automatically, then seemed to remember he was supposed to be terrifying. "And you're not allowed to touch it." "My bad." Akeem set it down gently. "He looks pretty cool, though. Does he fight space pirates?" Despite himself, Mir crawled closer. "He fights the Void Swarm. They're the most dangerous enemy in the galaxy." "No kidding? And let me guess, Captain Starwing is the only one brave enough to face them?" "Well, he has a crew, but he's the captain." Mir's tail, which had been lashing violently, began to settle. "None of the babysitters ever ask about Captain Starwing." "That's because none of the babysitters are doing their job right," Akeem said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "Want to show me how the story goes?" For a moment, Mir just stared at her. Then, hesitantly, he picked up another toy, a small fighter ship. "This is Lieutenant Bravescale. She's Captain Starwing's best pilot." They played for 10 minutes, and Akeem learned more about the Void Swarm than she'd ever wanted to know. She also learned that Mir had memorized 17 volumes of Star Warriors lore, that his favorite color was supernova orange, and that he was desperately, achingly lonely. "The tutors say I have to learn 8 languages and diplomatic protocol and quantum mathematics," Mir said quietly, lining up his toys in battle formation. "I'm only 4. I just want to play sometimes." Akeem felt her heart crack a little. "Yeah, kid, I bet you do. And everyone's always scared of me because I'm a dragon prince and I'm supposed to be fierce and powerful." His voice dropped to a whisper. "But I don't know how to be fierce yet. I just get angry and then I break things and then everyone leaves." "Here's a secret," Akeem said, making Mir look up at her with wide golden eyes. "Being fierce isn't about breaking stuff. It's about being brave enough to be yourself even when it's hard." Mir considered this. "The babysitters say I'm impossible. The babysitters are quitters. Akeem stood up and offered him her hand. How about we make a deal? You help me clean up this mess and I'll teach you a human game that's way more fun than throwing stuff. What game? Akeem grinned. It's called making sock puppets and putting on a show. We can make Captain Starwing fight the Void Swarm for real. For the first time in 3 months, Prince Mir laughed. It was a small sound, rusty from disuse, but it was genuine. They spent the next hour turning cleaning rags into puppets, using Akeem's mop as a spaceship, and acting out the most ridiculous space battle the Imperial Palace had ever witnessed. Mir did all the voices, his natural dramatic flair finally finding a proper outlet. Akeem played the villainous Void Queen with such over-the-top menace that Mir dissolved into giggles. When the Empress herself appeared in the doorway, drawn by the unprecedented sound of her son's laughter, she found them both on the floor surrounded by rag puppets, tears of mirth streaming down the young prince's face. And then, Mir was saying breathlessly, Captain Starwing does a triple barrel roll and Mom, watch this part! The Empress, who commanded fleets and struck fear into the hearts of war councils, felt her own eyes sting with tears. She looked at the human janitor, this unremarkable woman who had accomplished what the Empire's finest couldn't. What is your name? The Empress asked. Akeem scrambled to her feet, suddenly remembering exactly who she was talking to. Akeem, your Imperial Majesty. I'm sorry, you were just being what my son needed. The Empress's voice was warm. How would you feel about a promotion? Mir grabbed Akeem's hand. You have to stay. We haven't finished the story yet. Akeem looked down at the small dragon prince, at his hopeful eyes and his genuine smile, and thought about all the protocols she'd broken, all the rules she'd ignored. Well, she said, squeezing his hand back, I guess Captain Starwing's adventures are too important to leave unfinished. The Empress smiled, a rare and precious thing. Consider yourself the prince's official human companion. I suspect you'll handle his tantrums better than any babysitter ever could. I don't have tantrums anymore, Mir announced proudly. Akeem says I have big feelings that need proper outlets. Does she now? The Empress raised an elegant brow. She's very smart, Mir confided. For a human. Akeem laughed and the sound echoed through the palace halls like music. In the days to come, the other staff would whisper about the human who tamed the dragon prince. But Akeem knew the truth. She hadn't tamed anything. She'd just remembered that beneath the scales and the title and the tantrums was simply a little boy who needed someone to play with him. And sometimes, that was the most powerful magic in the universe.